how do you change your diet? How do you change your workouts? How do you change things that like help you regulate yourself and your mental health? And so I've been working on that. Help some of the guys from our dad's band actually. Last month they challenged me because I was like, I'm sad, I'm having a hard time, and they're like, boo fucking who? Like, why don't you do breath work instead, bro?
Fellas, what's going on? I hope this episode finds you well. And as always, I hope this episode leaves you better than when it found you. Today's episode is with Nate Palmer, and he's a former guest of the show, a longtime friend, and someone who I look up to in the health and fitness space and has given me so many insights and helped me to have the fitness and the health that I have today. And go back and listen to the first episode with him if you want to learn more about his general philosophies on health and fitness and exercise and workout. Today's episode goes deep in some of these new compounds, these new peptides. We get into supplements. We talk about all of the new stuff that's coming out and all of the things that is available to guys that if you are not at least educating on yourself on this, you're leaving yourself behind. You're going to get left behind. And so it's just a very educational, informative conversation that I'm sure you're going to enjoy. So enough of me, y'all. Let's get into today's episode with Nate Palmer. Nate, welcome back to the Modern Masculinity podcast. It's a pleasure and honor to have you here. I'm well. I'm excited to have this conversation. I mentioned in the intro, if you haven't heard our first episode with Nate, go back and listen to that, where we get into some of the basics and but the foundation sort of what Nate's philosophies are. Today's going to be a little bit different, but before we get into sort of supplements and some of the new hacks and things that are going on with, I don't know if medicine's the right word, but what is real in your world as a dad, a man, a father, a husband? What sort of things are you working through?
Oh, just the usual. Well, like for me, the biggest thing that's kind of all consuming right now is the fact that I have not been training that much. I've been bad at training since like May of this year, and I haven't trained jujitsu at all, which is like one of my favorite things to do, since August 30th. And so that's been affecting me in a real negative way, but I've been learning to work through that. Like, I feel like looking back, my last 2 decades of my life, I've used physical expression, working out, whatever, as my primary mental health coping strategy. And having been deprived of that, I let myself turn into a real piece of shit. And so I'm trying to fix that and actually like develop some real skills that are not just me like, battling my inner demons in the gym on a heavy set of Bulgarian split squats or something.
Yeah, I've been there for sure. And me too. I think I left it on a comment on your thing. I was rolling with a guy for the first time. Everybody's bigger than me, but he was a little bit bigger than me. And he got a little frisky on a Kimura. And usually I just roll out of him, or usually, you get caught and they let you roll out and we keep going. But he like cranked it. And I was like, it was the first time since my first roll where I heard a pop and I was like, oh, that's not good. And so it took a few weeks, and I too have not had a chance to get back, mostly because I'm just trying to find space in my life to be able to do it. But it is for me, the biggest thing is I notice I smell worse. I stink. Like if I don't work out, I don't get the sweat out. And so I just start like having this like funk come around me. And I'm like, all right, dude, you need to go sweat that out.
That's fair.
It's probably the coffee too. Caffeine.
Yeah. All the toxins we're absorbing on a daily basis.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, but shit is hard though. It's like when you've developed a habit, like Alex, this is ostensibly a very healthy habit, right? Fitness, nutrition, being in shape, being in the gym, like those are healthy things. What happens when you lose those? Like, how do you change your diet? How do you change your workouts? How do you change things that like help you regulate yourself and your mental health? And so I've been working on that. Help some of the guys from our dad's band actually. Last month they challenged me because I was like, I'm sad, I'm having a hard time, and they're like, boo fucking who? Like, why don't you do breath work instead, bro? And so I've been doing breath work. I've been on like a 35-day streak or something like that, and that's great.
Yeah.
It really helps. I feel way better. So I've been doing that, been doing physical therapy, but it's just been nice to have some sort of practice outside of physical movement that's enabled me to like regulate myself, be more patient with my kids, be a better partner for my wife, all those things without literally going and burning my energy, working out, training in the gym.
Yeah, I think the somatic side of mental health is like, we talk about mental health, but also like the body can't be disconnected from that. They talk about like the body keeps score and, that sort of concept. And I'm the same way. When I was going through it, I remember I'd wake up and I'd just feel I'd feel depressed, and maybe it was the excess cortisol or whatever. And the only thing that got me feeling any sense of normalcy was breath work. And so it's, now for me, I'm finally at a place where my baseline is sort of back. And now I can sort of get, I'm feeling like excited and passionate, like invigorated because of it. But I think if guys don't have something to like get the funk out of their body, like they're just walking around with all of those pent up emotions and pent up whatever is still in them.
100% agree with you on that.
What I love about your approach and just kind of your philosophy on life, and why I've enjoyed our friendship and also sort of following along, is that you sort of have a holistic approach to health. It's not just, it's not just one thing. Supplements has sort of been a part of that, and even more. I don't know if you call it like medicine or injections. Like there's all this craze with, all these new, what's the word I'm looking for? They're not proteins.
Weight loss shots.
Yeah, but it's
Peptides.
Peptides is the word I'm looking for, right?
Biohacking.
Yeah. And a few years ago, I would have thought like all of this is crazy and bullshit and what are you putting into your body? But as it's coming around, it seems like something that's here, and it seems like something that, not that we have to deal with, but I think you've sort of had a calculated, practical approach to it. So I'd love to hear what your journey has been around all those things and sort of how you're integrating that into your life, your clients and such.
Well, I've been hearing about like the BPC 5 and TB 500 blend, the Wolverine stack, for a while. I got a 350 pounder in jiu-jitsu landed on me on my shoulder, like my first 6 months of training. So I got a grade 2 sprain. So I was like, well, might as well try it. So I got some BPC and I started injecting it kind of around the site. And it was so annoying. Like, this is so hard to do, give myself shots, whatever. But I think it cut my recovery from like 4 months down into like 6 weeks or so, maybe even a little less. And so I was feeling a lot better and I was like a fan of it. But then like, GLP-1s, Ozempic, retatrutide, all these other like GLP-1 inhibitors are super popular right now. And it seems like a lot of people are taking them. You see people like you haven't seen in a while and they've dropped a bunch of weight. Usually it's like, so they're taking something. And so for a while I was like, that sucks. That's cheating. Like like you said, what are you putting in your body? But like the more research I do, because I'm doing a lot of research on all these different compounds right now. And I'm writing like a little blog about it. So it's called The Truth About Peptides. I don't have anything for sale, but if you want to like know what I've learned about stuff, you can check it out. I've got like 12 up there right now. I'm trying to do a couple a week. But I feel like now looking at this stuff, these GLP-1 and Ozempic and tirzepatide and everything are the natural progression and evolution in response to a very toxic food environment that we find ourselves in. We currently are still operating with our like caveman brains where we're like, sugar is good because I might need it for the famine that's going to happen in my ice cave. Like that's the brain and the operating system we have. But then we have refrigeration and we have pantries filled with snacks and we have fast food available to us at any point. And food scientists are in labs right now, like building not just food that bypasses your like not digestive tract, but like your satiation mechanism. Like a McDonald's hamburger, for example, is engineered to be able to be consumed in 3 bites. And people don't realize that like that's done intentionally so that you will order more food and eat until you are full rather than eating the appropriate amount of calories. So you'll eat until you're like stuffed. Like French fries, people don't even realize that French fries have sugar on them. It's to give us the like that real visceral reaction where you don't like take like the claw and you grab the French fries and then you stuff them into your mouth. It's not like no one's taking up one French fry and being like, that's a nice little taste. But we're just crushing these things because they've overridden our brain's natural like satiety mechanisms. And so not only do we have food scientists in labs coming up with foods that like make us like that we can eat more of faster, that really give us that crunch and that salt and the sweet and those perfect ratios. But we also have scientists in labs right now who are trying to come up with foods that bypass the GLP-1 like drugs responses that slow us down and mute the food noise that we get on a regular basis. So it's this constant battle between like corporations and people looking for profits in food products and our like health and, fitness essentially. So I think that the GLP-1s are just a natural evolution in combat to these foods that are so bad for us and have been engineered in a way to make us overeat. So I'm not necessarily like pushing them, but I'm also like, if people are coming to me and being like, I'm taking these or should I take this? I'm not telling them, no, don't do that. That's not a good idea anymore. I'm more like, yeah, great. If you're taking it, let's work on making sure that you don't lose any muscle mass. Let's make sure that you are eating enough protein, or if that sort of thing. So I've been working with a lot of people who are taking them. I mean, they're getting fabulous results because they are having an easier time with it, but also the people that I'm working with are not losing muscle mass at the same rate that people who are just taking them on their own are. And people also seem to be able to take less of them and still continue to get good results, which is helpful because I don't want people overloaded on those or really, really highly dependent.
Yeah, I think one of the challenges that, at least for me, and I'm someone who gets pretty nerdy on these sort of things, and I've had to, put on my nerd hat and glasses quite a bit because you've got things like GLP-1 and BPCs and, whatever way, like there's obviously some specific drugs there. Are there some general buckets that they sort of fall into, whether it's like weight loss or you mentioned the BPC sort of was, in recovery? Are there certain things that, functions, if you will, that these sort of things are accomplishing?
Yeah. So like I would say that like one of the ones like these GLP-1s basically slow down your body's digestive tract, which mutes food noise a little bit. So you don't quite get these sugar cravings, you don't get the hunger signals, you're more full after eating a smaller portion. Makes it very easy to lose weight. Then a lot of them fall into like the growth hormone agonist. So they're growth hormone precursors. So growth hormone is very expensive. And if you inject yourself with growth hormone, like a lot of bodybuilders do, your body will stop producing growth hormone. These have kind of bypassed that mechanism by hitting the enzyme chain before your body releases growth hormone and stimulating that so you release more of your own growth hormone. So that's your BPCs, that's your CJCs, that's your ipamorelin, that sort of thing. And so like that's a very, very strong like recovery bucket, I would say. So I'm currently trying the CJC ipamorelin blend just to see what it's like. I was hoping that would help with my back issues. And while I don't necessarily know if that's doing something or if it's, because I'm throwing all the things at it, it seems to be helping it a little bit. The thing that I'm noticing most about it is that my sleep is really good. I fall asleep really fast. I go deep sleep hardcore for like 2 hours. So I'm getting a lot of a good recovery there. Then there's also kind of like random ones too, like melanotin 2 can help increase the melanin in your skin so you can get a tan. And it also makes you super horny. That's kind of fun. There's a couple of them that do different things. I think the main buckets are the decreased appetite. The recovery is huge. There's not one that's like this one is for building muscle. I mean, like there's a couple that are like muscle building precursors like IGF-1, but those seem to be more like mid-tier peptides. Some of these god tier peptides are the CJCs, the BPCs. Some people will even put glutathione in there, and that's a real big like anti-inflammatory recovery. But I think like the main thing that we're seeing with these is like more youthful skin, hair. There's some that will help like regrow hair. There's some that will help with your skin, like the glow peptide or the GHKU, the copper peptide, are really good for that. But then you got some that have just like random different benefits, like the melanotin is really fun. I haven't tried it, but I kind of want to.
Yeah, we'll ask your wife about that one. Do you put it in the wellness bucket yet? For the longest time, I thought it was just sort of a recovery thing, or for people, not for people who were like fat, but people who wanted to lose weight. It seems, and I don't know, but it seems like people are taking them more just in terms of general wellness and not necessarily because they have a specific problem.
Yeah, I think that like, without splitting hairs too much and being like, this one is for wellness and this one is not, I would say this goes into kind of like the general biohacking. Like, how do we age more gracefully? So really, really heavy in terms of longevity and improved performance and recovery. Almost similar to I would like think about supplements. Supplements 30 years ago weren't anywhere close to as popular or as large of an industry as they are today. But I think that like number one, if you're waking up in the morning and you're having a protein shake and you're putting creatine in it and some greens and you got your vitamins and minerals you're taking, you pop a couple pills before you go like about your day, you're setting yourself up in like a mindset of I'm a healthy person. I prioritize my fitness level. And I think that is just exponential if you actually have to give yourself a shot. Now, I think that sometimes these GLP-1s are sold as like, eat whatever you want to. This makes it easy to lose weight, which I hate because I still think that like now it almost becomes more critical to hit your fitness goals, to hit the gym, to get enough protein. But I think that if you're giving yourself a shot, generally speaking, that's such a ordeal compared to like popping a pill or making a shake that you really have to embody that like I am a fit person and health is a large priority for me. And so I feel like if you're taking a shot, like the chances of you eating like a cheeseburger and fries for lunch is way lower.
Yeah, it's really fascinating because I think I saw something on X or whatever where it was just talking about how we're gonna, look up in say 30 or 40 years, and you're gonna see a clear distinction between people who sort of took this stuff seriously, took supplementation seriously, took, whatever these sort of biohacking methods seriously, and those that sort of continued on the path of the 90s, 2000s sort of thing where it was, cheeseburgers and French fries. And I was just on a call yesterday with a lady who was she was about to turn 50, and I was absolutely flabbergasted because she was hot. And not that 50-year-olds can't be hot, but like I thought she could have been 38, 39. And, of course, maybe there was some operations and stuff, but it didn't look like that, right? It seems like the ability for people to, like you said, age gracefully is more available to people today than obviously ever before.
I think that we're going to see a clear distinction in like the next 10, 20 years. And I think that'll be kind of like the new wealthy divide. You'll be able to see like people who don't have any money for these compounds are going to kind of exist in that state of like overweight or obesity, dealing with diabetes and things like that. And people with the money to spring for these peptides and pay for personal trainers and, like have someone cooking their meals or whatever else, they're going to not only be wealthier, but they're also going to be like skinnier and more ripped. So I think that like your body is a large amount of like the current currency you have. And I think that's only going to get more and more pronounced as some of these compounds become available, because now it doesn't just take hours in the gym and tracking your macros. Now you can kind of supercharge or shortcut the experience depending on how you view it by putting some money towards some of these peptide compounds.
Are there some that are, I don't know, expensive? Or like if you were to say, like, if you want to get started, like here's sort of the entry route, or like here's a way to get going? Or is it that people sort of have to dive in? And I'm just so foreign to the process of it.
It's a little bit of the Wild West right now. So there's two main ways you can kind of get involved. Number one is you can go to like a naturopathic doctor or even one of like these like medical wellness spas and get a prescription and have them actually inject you in-house. That's so they get it through a compounding pharmacy. It comes in vials already reconstituted is what it's called. So like it's a liquid. Or you can go on the internet and buy research chemicals, because a lot of these places are selling them and they're like, hey, not for human consumption.
Horse
But
vials.
yeah. So like they're like, these are research chemicals. They're not for humans, but everyone is still reconstituting themselves with a little bit of BAC water, which is easy to find, buying some insulin syringes on Amazon and then shooting them into their belly fat or whatever. So I feel like you can kind of go either direction depending on how familiar you are with like what you need and what these do. And if you have a good like filter on where you can find high quality products. So if you have those things in place, then, messing around and having those N1 experiments where you're just trying stuff on yourself, I think can be a lot of fun. Otherwise, if you don't feel confident like that, I think probably talking to somebody. But like, for example, there's this one GLP-1 called retatrutide, which is given like crazy good results across the board. People are microdosing it and getting great results in their weight loss. But there's also some really amazing gut health benefits to this retatrutide. And then I think like the company Lilly is either trying to trademark it or patent it or whatever else, because they have just bought up like the nation's supply of retatrutide so that they can start giving it to people at like $800 a month. Whereas if you went on the research, like some of these research chemicals websites, you can get high quality retatrutide, but it's like $160 for basically what ends up being a 4-month supply. So, I think that there's going to, if you have the chops and the time willing to dedicate to the research, you can find stuff for pretty inexpensive. Otherwise, it can get very spendy.
What else outside of these, peptides do you think is worth people either investing their time, money? Are there other things that, check some of those boxes?
There's a couple of really cool things that are just coming out and like people are getting some really great results doing. Number one would be walking. Have you heard of this?
I try and avoid it, but yeah, it seems like some people tend to do it from time to time when I look out the window.
Yeah. It's when you ambulate your legs in a direction and you end up moving from somewhere to somewhere else. Crazy stuff out there about walking. But like the benefits of walking are absolutely mind-blowing. If you put it up against a lot of these weight loss drugs and you control for like calories, you're going to get great results on walking too. probably fairly comparable. So if you just walk an hour a day, your life's going to get so much better. Walking after meals also super important for digestion, helps your body partition those nutrients and put them into muscle versus fat, keeps your blood sugar low. It's so good. Just do that. Drinking water, also a great use of time and energy, putting some electrolytes in that. And then sleep. People don't take their sleep seriously enough. So just making sure you're getting to bed on time, getting away from the blue light before you go to bed, having proper like magnesium or supplementation, having a cool dark room, using an eye mask, things like that that people don't even think about. They're leaving a ton of gains on the table, whether they're looking to lose fat or build muscle. And like your mental health, your longevity, how you feel on a daily basis, so impacted by the amount of sleep you got. But people want the shot. They don't want to do the work or have to stop looking at TikTok at night.
Yeah. And I think like small habits or small changes for me. Recently, I started taking more calls on walks, as opposed to being on a Zoom in my office. We live in places where it's still warm enough to go outside right now. And it's here in Southern California, it's 70, a cool, nice 73. And so taking calls on walks has been like a game changer for me, just in terms of, looking down at the steps and seeing like, oh, okay, like, I look back 6 months ago and I was averaging like 3,000 steps a day. And all of a sudden you add in a couple of meeting, walks and you're pushing that 10K pretty easily, as opposed to, I remember like going out and doing sprints and like all this stuff to try and like activate some of those same, I would imagine, effects that can be done a lot more simpler just by, some of these common habits.
I love that. I've actually been thinking about that a lot because I've been hating Zoom calls recently. I just don't want to be on them. I feel like I'm like either sitting or just standing in the same spot. I love being on calls. I love talking to people on the phone where I get to move around a little bit. And even in my house, I'm still like doing karate in the mirror. I'm like, so I feel like I can move, I can think better. Everything's just going a lot better. If you don't mind, I'm just going to take this podcast and just go outside with it. That'd be fun. That'd be kind of a fun
my
thing.
video editors will appreciate it.
Yeah.
One of the other things that I think is you've got some ideas on is like the strength versus aesthetic sort of thing. And, so much of the world today seems to be focused on looking better. And for sure, I think it has its value. What are your thoughts on whether someone should be chasing, physique, or whether they should, be focusing on just getting stronger?
Like, I think it's like, what's the goal, right? Like, if you want to step on a platform and deadlift and like in a competition, you should absolutely be focused on getting stronger. I think there are some minimal levels of strength that adult males should have, like being able to do 25 push-ups, being able to do 10 pull-ups, being able to squat your body weight. I think those are all important things. But beyond that, like, I'm like medium strong. I'm not that strong compared to a lot of people. So like, let's just say for this conversation that I can do a dumbbell row with 100 pounds for 5 reps. Me being able to go do a dumbbell row with 120 pounds for 5 reps doesn't impact my jujitsu. It doesn't impact my day-to-day. Like, going from like where I'm at to more is not going to give me any sort of like massive payoff. And in fact, could potentially be a little bit detrimental because of the stress I'm putting on my joints, tendons, and ligaments. Not to say you shouldn't get strong. I always am trying to get stronger because strength and muscle go hand in hand. And I want to build as much muscle and be as resilient as I can because muscle is the most metabolic tissue in the body and helps you age well and helps you eat more carbohydrates, which means you get more tacos if you do it right. So I think that that is important, but I think that there's nothing wrong with training for aesthetics. I think that like if you can just keep your body moving at a good level, you never stop jumping or sprinting or dancing or moving around in a way that like keeps you like mobile and feeling good. Great. Train your biceps, hit some bicep curls, work on those triceps. I think that like the amount of confidence a man can get by training his side delts, his triceps, and his lats to the point where you can see them from the front. You can't put a price on how it feels walking into a room being like, I know I look good. I know you see my arms stretching my shirt sleeves. And I think there's a lot of value in that for sure.
The last few weeks I've sort of fallen off as life has gotten a little crazy, but the 6 months before that, I was pretty dedicated to the gym and specifically lifting, following, bodybuilder regimens. And I have no intention of ever stepping on a stage and being a bodybuilder. But for the longest time in high school, it was all just, let's try and get stronger. Let's try and get stronger. I'm injured. Oh, fuck. It was just like, instead of taking sort of a calculated approach. And I remember looking at a picture from a couple years ago and being like, holy shit, I was that scrawny, like looking back and being like, Jesus, that guy is a wimp. And also conversely, feeling better about, how I look in the mirror. I never thought that was, I thought that was too vain. Like, why should I care about that? And also going through all the things that I've gone through, I'm like, no, I want to give as much confidence to myself as I can. And if I can get more of that by pushing myself in the gym, but then also by liking the way that I look in the mirror, like, why not? And, training things like side delts was like, I always thought, like, why the fuck would I do that? Like delt raises, like, we weren't allowed to do
Not
that.
functional, bro.
Exactly. It wasn't functional. And so I never put the time into it, or, the little time that I did, it was like, oh, there's no results. But I think there is something to really being intentional and strategic with how you train, not only for, longevity and health, but also for the way that you look.
And I mean, like, okay, I've been a personal trainer since 2008. So I've trained a lot of people. And the amount of joy people come into a session when they're like, look at my arm, look at my arm muscle, look at my leg muscle. I saw my calves in the mirror the other day. Like, that's so fun. I want everyone to have that experience where they like look at themselves and they're like, okay, let's go. Like, that's a great place to be. And I think sometimes guys can like poo poo that because they're like, that's not real functional strength. You know what's functional strength though? Is like rolling around on the ground and not getting like arm barred because you actually have done enough chest flies where you're going to be like strong enough to keep yourself locked in, So like there's a lot of carryover to real world stuff in some of these isolation movements of bicep curls and chest flies and side delts when it comes to combat sports. And I think those guys are very wise to be doing a lot of shoulders and stability exercises to keep themselves stable and strong. But like, it's so funny to like, if I were to look back at myself when I was at my strongest, when I was deadlifting, over 400 pounds for reps and I could squat 315, which I can't do right now, I would tear that guy up. Like, it was crazy because I came into jiu-jitsu a couple of years ago, approaching like 3 years ago, like next month. And I got beat up by like a 15-year-old girl. And I was like, I am 200 pounds. I have been lifting weights for 2 decades. How did you just beat me up 3 times in a row without anything I could do about it? And so I think that really changed my paradigm about like what is strong and like how valuable is that? Like, if you can't defend yourself, then what point is there to being able to do more of a dumbbell row? Zero, like that's zero carryover to me.
Are there exercises or types of movement that you think help with these sort of things?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. There's a lot of like great ways to bulletproof your body against some of the like the combat sports. But I do think that like just in general, like you said, like, getting stronger, being able to do more pull-ups, being able to deadlift more weight, being able to squat, those all have carryover and are very, very functional. But you can't neglect like the internal external rotations, like the shoulder presses, the shoulder and thoracic mobility, some of these other little things that don't get the same respect as the big three lifts. And bro, what do you bench? Unless you can bench press like a lot of weight, I don't think there's a ton of carryover with a bench press. But it is really fun when I'm rolling with someone who's 140 pounds to be like, off. That's fun. Then rather than doing like a bench press, I got like a single arm floor press. Throw a little hip bridge in there. It's nice.
Like a push-up?
No, like you're laying on your back, your elbows touch the ground, and then you push a dumbbell up.
You're laying on your back. Are you on a bench or are you on the floor?
On the floor.
All right. I'll have to try that out.
Turkish get-ups, also kind of like one of those ones that gets like shit on a lot, but I think that's a great move for just general mobility, being able to move with a load over your head and being able to stay stable and sturdy.
One of the guys who he's getting dragged through the mud quite a bit is Mike Israetel. I'm not sure if you follow him at all. He has some notorious thoughts about the Turkish getup and saying, how stupid it is. I push back on that because I think it's like it's a great strength sort of thing. And maybe for like the bodybuilding sort of aesthetic look, maybe it doesn't accomplish all those things. But I think that some of those funky sort of body weight, things that force your body to, carry weight in sort of awkward positions, I think can really help when you're training jiu-jitsu or, carrying your kids around, like all that sort of stuff.
Totally.
Get your body in a wonky spot.
Yeah. I don't know. I followed him for a little bit because I think he's smart, but then there was drama and I'm like, I don't have time for drama around fitness. Are you joking? Like, give me a break. I'm out. I'm creating as much drama as I want to with my family. I got a 7-year-old, bro.
I felt the same way.
I feel like when people are like, that's a stupid exercise. I'm like, well, there's not like really a stupid exercise except for burpees. There's just stupid applications of exercises. You want to be a bodybuilder, you don't have to do Turkish get-ups or suitcase carries. You want to be strong, mobile, and fit. You want to be able to like carry a bag through the airport where you got 2 kids hanging off you. You probably should do some heavy showcase carries. Just saying.
Yeah.
It just depends on your goals,
What about things like TRT or, I think further down that road there's like obviously the steroids, but like things like TRT or stuff like that. Where do you land on those sorts of things?
I was debating getting on TRT to see if that would help my back, but I feel like it's once you're on, you're on. You shouldn't really get off of it. That said, I probably about 50% of the guys I work with are on some form of TRT. And then like in the jiu-jitsu community, that's massive. So I feel like it is a really, really good thing, but it's not good in the way that a lot of people think. They think that they're going to get on it and become like jacked, roided out monsters. And that never seems to happen. It just seems to kind of just compound what you already do. I've got people who are taking like 2 milliliters or whatever it is, like almost like a double dose of like kind of the average, who don't look shredded or jacked or anything like that. So it's not like taking TRT is going to fix like body issues. What I really think it does a good job of is helping you sleep better and helping your mental health. So many guys I've talked to have been like, I was depressed. I felt like shit. I couldn't sleep. I was in a bad mood all the time, never had any energy. They get on TRT and suddenly they just have like a new lease on life. So I've heard that story multiple times from people who are just like, yeah, I was going through it. I didn't realize it was just because my hormones were in the tank. So I think that like if you are feeling like just low, just not where you want to be, bad sleep, low energy, like depressed, anxious, that's a really good time to start looking at hormones and see where you fall. If you just like want to get a little bit bigger arms, I'd think that's probably not the right move.
Yeah, and do some unintended consequences to your balls. At least, and that could be
The
a myth.
balls are
I don't know.
smaller, the dick looks bigger. So, I mean, maybe it's a positive.
Maybe. Are
I
there
could use all the help I can get, you know?
no comment. Are there supplements that you do? Well, actually, before we get into that, you mentioned a little bit about hormones and such. I think one thing that's becoming more and more available to people as it's companies and it's more accessible and less expensive is doing things like blood work. Is that part of your protocol or is that something that you're doing?
I do my blood work once or twice a year. Twice if I remember, once pretty much without fail. Just because I want to have like records of where I fall and what's going on. Because I think a lot of times we look at blood work and the doctor's like, looks good, but he didn't have your last 6 years of records where it was like, whoa, you've been really, really like good levels there. Now you have like medium levels, maybe something to look at rather than just being like, that's a fine level to be at, you know? I think of like HRV a lot. HRV you can track with like a Whoop or an Aura. It stands for heart rate variability. And it's so unique to you, right? Some of my clients have HRVs that are like 80 to 100, like really great. And some of my clients have HRVs that are 25 to 31. And so if I got a 25 HRV, I would feel like shit because my HRV is generally around 90. But everyone else, like they'll feel bad on 25, but they'll feel great at 31. And so it's just like, it's super, super unique to each person. So I think having your blood work so you can cross check and make sure that you have like on a yearly basis, you can see what's happening with your blood, your hormones, toxicity, inflammation, that's critical. It's not necessarily just about what the numbers are. It's about what they are in relation to your last check.
Can you explain a little bit about what HRV is and sort of, what its significance might be?
Yeah. So heart rate variability is basically how long there is between each beat of your heart. So your heart doesn't go 1, 2, 3, 4. It's more along the lines of like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and it will change. The higher your heart rate variability is, the more your body is ready to take on different challenges. So if you have a high HRV, you wake up with a lot of good rest, you're going to be ready to jump into a hardcore workout session, deadlift a lot of weight, but you're also able to flip the switch and just go into like a meditation or breath work and have like the parasympathetic nervous system dominance. You can shift back and forth. Your body is ready. If you have a low HRV, your body's not really going to be ready for like a lot of variance in what you're doing. So easy ways to increase your HRV. The two best things are sleep more, sleep better, and walk more. The more walking you do, the better your HRV is. And I don't have any science to prove that, but I have a ton of empirical evidence from looking at clients' data. And it seems like step counts and HRVs move in sync with each other.
Yeah, I could see that. I remember when I first got the Whoop, and it was interesting. You'd wake up and I'd feel like shit, or bad night of sleep or whatever, and you could see in the number like the number was lower, and then take care of yourself a little bit, recover a little bit, and the number goes up. And I think that data is so valuable. Maybe it's just to a nerd like me, but it gives you insights into your body. Because I remember being like, oh, dude, you're just a little bitch, and not realizing that, no, your body is in a different state. And so if we can arm ourselves with this information, I think we're able to make better decisions.
I did a whole episode on my podcast, Get Leaner and Live Longer, about HRV. And I think like it was a 45-minute episode. It probably could have been about 25 minutes. But like at the end of the day, the guy who was talking about it, he wears like a Whoop, an Aura, and a garment. So he's getting his HRV from 3 different places. And he was saying that like they generally all are about the same. And if one of them's a little higher, then like even if the number is different, the change is fairly easy to see no matter what implement you're using. He said you can predict like lifespan with this and you can predict disease with this. So again, it's not like if I woke up and for the next 7 days I was getting a 30 on my HRV, probably something going on with me. And that goes on for a month. He's like, go get checked, go to the doctor, have them do some panels and figure out what's going on. He's like, because if you get cancer, God forbid, you'll see your HRV just completely take a dump way before a lot of other symptoms will pop up. But it's knowing your previous levels so you can compare and contrast them to like your current levels. Because if you just start looking at them, you're like, it's 30, like you don't have cancer. You might just have a low HRV in general. So
What gadgets or tools, you mentioned the Whoop and you talked about some other ones. Are there any other favorites that you have?
I used the Whoop for about 2.5 years, and I used the Aura for like 6 years. I just got rid of my Aura because the battery was dying, and I found out they sell data to Palantir, and I think Palantir could potentially be the Antichrist. I'm not totally sure yet, but it seems like it's like we're well on the way to like digital IDs and social scores and constant surveillance, which like you want to put on your tinfoil hat and I'll take you for a ride. But I like that sort of thing. I like my sleep mask a lot. That's like one of my favorite, like, I don't even know if you'd call it a gadget or not, but like, I love having that thing around because it just helps like black out my room wherever I am, no matter what time of day.
Just a standard sleep mask?
There's a couple on Amazon that I really like.
Well, let's talk about like your stack, like your daily protocol, if you will, or the things that you're doing consistently to maintain your, like you said, live longer. What is I think you changed the name of your show, which is I'm excited to hear.
Get Leaner and Live Longer.
Yeah. What's sort of the protocol that you have for that?
All right. So it used to be more like movement in the morning, but now I've switched it up to breath work because movement wasn't feeling good. But basically, I wake up and I have a glass of water with a little bit of baking soda in it. And that's just something I've been trying out for the last couple of days. I like baking soda pre-jiu-jitsu or pre-mountain biking, anything where you're going to get a big lactic acid buildup. But I've just been liking having it in the morning because I like to wake up and just drink something gross. And I think that sounds weird, and I'm not really joking about it. For a long time, I drank the water with hydrogen tablets in it, and that didn't taste very good. So I feel like I'm just like on like, what's something weird I can put in my body right off the bat? Then I'll have a glass of Fast Aid right after that. So Fast Aid is my amino acid supplement. So I'll take that before I train or if I'm doing anything on an empty stomach, just to make sure I have aminos, especially if I'm fasting and I don't want to raise my blood sugar. It's a great way to do that. But I think aminos in the morning is great, especially if you're not going to eat first thing. Then I do like, 6 to 15 minutes of breath work, depending on how much time I have. And then I'll usually train at some point during the day, either doing cardio or a weight training session because I haven't been doing any sort of combat yet. And then at night, what I'm taking right now is I'm taking a vitamin C, I'm taking a turmeric, I'm taking like a 150% dose of magnesium. So I have a magnesium glycinate supplement, and the serving size is 2, which brings you about 400 milligrams of magnesium glycinate. But some of the studies right now are showing that 500 milligrams of magnesium can actually increase brain volume and protect against dementia and Alzheimer's, which runs my family. So why not? I'm just going to take that for the rest of my life. So I take 3 of those. If I need to like guarantee good sleep, I'll take 2 pills of Complete Restore, which is my sleep and recovery supplement. And then I take fish oil and vitamin D in the morning. You want to take vitamin D in the morning. You also want to take vitamin D with the fish oil. So you give it a little bit of fat because it's fat soluble. And then I also, in my protein shake that I'll make and take with me on the road, I have 2 scoops of the whey protein. I have a scoop of collagen. I put in a bunch of salt. I do ice, sometimes banana, and then either milk or almond milk. And then I'm doing the CJC injections at night now. That's not going to be a long-term thing. I'm doing that for like 6 weeks, then I'll take 6 weeks off of peptides just to see what happens.
I love that. It's a thorough, protocol. And I'm going to ask you about how to sort of not simplify it, but make it manageable. But before that, I remember being a young kid, and my mom, she has a number of things. Mostly it's diabetes is sort of what she's fighting, or whatever the word is to use there. But I remember seeing her and having her Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and she had that little box of pills, right, that she'd have to take. And I remember thinking like, I'm never going to be that person that has to fucking take all these pills, because I remember seeing it was like a handful of pills that she had to take. I'm like, that looks miserable. And I've sort of come around and I'm like, well, you're either going to take a handful of pills of supplements or you're going to take a handful of pills of medication. But it seems like you're going to I needed to order one of those Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday things because I'm like, this is the only way to sort of make it practical. And it doesn't seem like there's a way around that given the food environment, the toxin environment, all the things that you talked about.
Yeah, 100%. Like our food is just not as nutrient dense as it used to be. So if you want to get the amount of nutrients you need, you generally have to be eating well over your calorie limits. So supplements can bridge the gap there and give you what you need. I didn't mention creatine. I take creatine, and I've been taking 15 grams a day as an experiment for the past 3 weeks. But did you know that creatine monohydrate, just the regular basic creatine, if you wake up with like low sleep, if you take 5 scoops of that, 25 grams, you can basically counteract the sleep deprivation you feel and like the mental load you have. It's amazing. There's some new studies coming out about that with regard to decreasing like the sleep debt, as well as how it impacts people who already have Alzheimer's and protects against Alzheimer's. By the way, did you know nicotine protects against Alzheimer's and Parkinson's?
Because of you, I did.
Magnesium, creatine, nicotine, all like have some really crazy long-time, lifetime mental health like and longevity benefits. Kind of weird.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because I remember growing up and being in high school and thinking like, oh, creatine, it's just to make your muscles bigger, or like it being very much like a bodybuilding, for muscle sort of thing. But it seems like more and more studies are coming out about its effects on the brain and how it actually can benefit, cognitively as well.
Yeah, it's kind of wild. And I'm trying to get everyone to take it. So I got my little sister taking it. My kids take a little bit of it. I'm trying to get my grandma to take it. She's in a memory care facility. So she doesn't remember to take it. Weirdest thing.
How much are you giving to your kids?
Like 2 grams. I'll make a shake and I'll split almost a full scoop between them.
That's something that a doctor might go, oh, that's a good idea. Because I was like, no, you guys can't have this because you've got to, I don't know, reach some arbitrary age. But it seems to be safe for kids.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, it's already in food. It's in steak. But like you eat a 1 pound steak, you get about 1 gram of creatine. So you don't need to feed your kids like 2 pounds of steak every day.
Yeah.
A lot.
Yeah. And expensive these days. I love your fasting. I need to re-up on that because it tastes good. And a big part of my protocol, if you will, is intermittent fasting. So I usually don't eat until 4 or 5. And with the fast aid, that just gets so much, it goes by so much easier. Are there any other?
Yeah, it really mutes your hunger signals, which is really nice. And it keeps you kind of full, especially if you put it with really cold water. That's the trick.
Well, yeah, another part of the challenge that I was doing was training while fasted. And you mentioned the aminos, which the fast aid brings. It's like you're sort of not wasting the workout, but you're definitely not getting the most out of it that you can.
It's crazy how much of my like working out I completely wasted because I did intermittent fasting for almost 3 years, and I trained in the morning and I wouldn't eat until like 4, 5, 6, 8 hours later. And so like your body, like let's say you're doing a chest day, you're tearing down your chest muscle fibers, your body will go look for aminos to rebuild that, and it's going to pull it from your quads. So you lose muscle when you train without like aminos floating in your system. And it doesn't mean you ever need to be taking an amino acid supplement, but if you are fasting and training, I don't even go like for a long walk beyond 30 minutes if I don't take that stuff. But if you've had plenty of protein in your diet, you had a bunch of eggs earlier in the day, and you got like in the last 3-4 hours, you've had something, you're going to be okay. But like these early morning training sessions where you're doing it on an empty stomach or when you're intermittent fasting, you have to be taking something like this. It's really, really critical if you want to maintain the muscle you've built, because muscle is so expensive to build. You don't want to lose any of it because you didn't take a scoop of something easy.
Yeah. Any other favorite supplements that you like, that you recommend often?
I just released it's called Maxaid. It's an essential amino acid. So it's not one you take while you're fasting, unless you don't care about raising your blood sugar, because it'll break the fast. Fast aid won't break the fast. But I've been really liking that. What I've been doing is taking that and mixing it into Greek yogurt and like making like a strawberry flavored Greek yogurt that's like super high in aminos. That's been really good. I like the magnesium glycinate a lot. Been taking that a lot. Been taking a lot of creatine.
Yeah. And also what I love about your, I don't know what you call it, your shop, is that you sort of aggregate and put together, you probably have better words, but like some combination or some compounds of different stuff. So you're taking sort of one pill that's got a group of all these, different supplements for a specific function, whether that's like, at night to recover or in the morning to get going for your brain.
Most of what I've built with $1 Million Body Labs is just stuff that I wanted to take. And so kind of use it as an excuse. Like my nootropic DeepMind, like a lot of people don't like this because there's no caffeine in it really. But I like to get my caffeine through coffee. I want to drink a bunch of coffee in the morning, and that's like my favorite thing to do. So when it comes to like 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and I'm like running on fumes or I'm tired or whatever, it's nice to be able to have a stim-free nootropic that can help me with my mental and cognitive
Mhm.
abilities without keeping me up late at night. So
There you go. Yeah. And on that note, why don't you tell people where they can go grab the supplements? If there's anything else that's worth going out there and getting, and how they might be able to stay connected and follow up with you.
yeah, so milliondolarbodylabs.com is where you can grab the supplements. Got a deal running right now. It's like 30% off stuff. So if you like, it's like kind of like an early Black Friday thing. I don't know when this comes out. I'll probably run a Christmas special too, depending. If you want to learn about like the peptides, and it's really just like learn about what I've been learning, go to truthaboutpeptides.com, and I just have like a blog and I'm trying to continue to update it. So if you have questions about something in particular, I'll go do research on that next. I just want to learn as much about this because I do think it's going to be the future of a lot of like longevity, biohacking, and just health and fitness and wellness. And then if you want to check out my book called $1 Million Body Method, which basically like condenses everything that I've learned about nutrition and how to eat for all day energy and to lose fat really rapidly, just go to getnatesbook.com and I'll send you a free copy of it. You can also go on Amazon or Audible and get it. It's on there. But if you don't want to pay for it, getnatesbook.com.
Love it. We'll link all that up as well. Last question that we ask everybody. In your opinion, Nate, what is the definition of modern masculinity?
The first thing that popped in my head, and I can't really get it out, would be like a servant leader, I think is my definition. I feel like the journey I've been on and through masculinity is really one of leadership. My wife is a very strong-willed person and she's amazing and I love her. She just has a lot of opinions on things and I don't have as many opinions. And I always felt like it should be like, where do you want to go? I'd be like, I don't know, babe, where do you want to go? And I was like, I'm being so nice, letting her choose. What I've learned though is that a lot of times she's already been choosing stuff all day, especially now we have like with kids and stuff. She's making choices, making decisions. Sometimes she just wants to turn her brain off. So the greatest gift that I think I can give my family is by being like a servant of them, by leading and by projecting really calm, patient energy. And then like the way she lights up when I go, hey, I made plans for Saturday night. We're going to go out at 7:00. I already arranged a babysitter. She's like, like it's just this deep breath that she's able to take. So I got a tattoo with pillars that I really, really like because it reminds me to like try to be that pillar and live into that role that I can really bless my family with.